Well, good morning, everyone. It's 10 o'clock, and today is Tuesday, the 31st of July, 2018. Present in our commission meeting today to my left is Commissioner James Ebert. I'm Commissioner Jim Harvey. Commissioner Jenkins is excused today. Our invocation this morning is scheduled to be given by Jared Anderson. He's going to, unfortunately, he's our human resource person's in the back of the room, and will exercise really a strong warning to be on time to meetings. He knows, of all people, Mr. Anderson knows to be on time. So I'll ask Duncan Olson if you'll come forward this morning and give our invocation. Our Pledge of Allegiance this morning will be given by the Assistant Director of our Culture, Parks, and Recreation, Ms. Jennifer Graham, and then I'll have the thought of the day. Mr. Olson.
Our kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we're so grateful for this day. We're so grateful for the opportunity we have to come and work for the people. We're so grateful for all of our many blessings. Heavenly Father, please bless that we might be able to receive some moisture, that we might be able to sustain our lawns and gardens and pastures and fields. Please bless that we can go throughout this day in peace and safety, and no harm or accident come upon us. In the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation
Under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
our thought today is really rather simple. It's by Alex Morat, who said, "Whoever perceives that robots and artificial intelligence are merely here to serve humanity, think again. With virtual domestic assistants and driverless cars, just the latest in a growing list of applications, it is we, humans, who risk becoming dumbed down, and ultimately subservient to machines." So, as I thought about that, with my personality, I would challenge you to look in another person's eyes. Not through a screen, not through a FaceTime, but look in someone else's eyes and have a face-to-face conversation with them. You can't do that. Or a machine can't do that with one another. And so they'll never be able to replace that. So that's my challenge to all of you. Don't risk becoming dumbed down. Thank you. In keeping with our agenda, as we've changed it recently, our public comments are now at the first of the meeting. So those of you who have taken a look at the agenda, whether you have or you haven't, if you have some items that you want to comment with regards to the agenda, now is the time that we ask you to come to the mic. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Otherwise, if not, then we'll proceed with our agenda. But that mic is now open now. If you'll come to the mic and state your name and the city you're from, would appreciate it.
I assume this is for the public hearings as
This
well?
is for, yes, sir.
Okay. My name is Steve Parkinson. I'm with Roy City at 5051.
Steve, during the public hearing, we'll also give you a chance to have public comments during the
I
public
can
hearing
come
portion.
back. Either one.
Okay, or you do however you want.
Okay, I'll just do it now and then you can
Okay.
hear it. With Roy City at 5051 South, 1900 West. My comments more on the public hearing of the vacating of the public utility easement located on lot 35 of Country Meadows subdivision. The concern that we have is vacating a single lot's, public utility easement when everybody else still has it. It's going to be difficult if a public utility needs to come in behind it. So our request would either be deny this request or vacate the entire public utility easement along that west side of those properties.
Interesting, thank you.
So knowing that this particular subdivision will come into Roy by the end of the year or so, we're going to be annexing those in. We'd like to either have it all there or not at all.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other public comment?
I'm not necessarily for public comment, but I thought I'd just take a moment and stand up and promote the Ogden Musical Theater.
Sorry, what's your name?
Oh,
and
I'm
your
sorry, it's
address?
Ernest Gonzalez. I'm from Washington Terrace, a little too anxious to get on with the show, I guess. Just thought I'd come and take a moment to promote the Ogden Musical Theater going on at the Egyptian Theater right now in downtown Ogden. They've got a marvelous performance of Annie Get Your Gun going August 2nd, 6th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. I was privileged to be their opening night, and it was mind-blowing. They did a phenomenal job at that performance, and encourage anybody here that's listening to please get out and see that. It'll be well worth your time and effort, and also offer thanks to the commissioners for their support of Ogden Musical Theater, bringing that back to downtown Ogden.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Any other public comment? None being recognized, we'll then move to our consent items. Commissioners, we talk about our consent items. Item number 12 needs to be moved to an action item. So as I go through the action items, number 12 will be moved. It'll take the place of, or be heard actually at the very end of our consent items. So on consent items, or item number F on the agenda, consent request for approval of the ratification of warrants 1495 to 1506 and 430169 to 430351 in the amounts of $2,509,042.14, dated the 24th of July 2018. Item number 2 is a request for approval of warrants 1507 through and including 1510 and 430352 to 430666 in the amount of $3,005,445.89. Item number 3 on the consent item is a request for approval of purchase orders in the amount of $82,460.40. Item 4 is a request for approval of ACH payment to U.S. Bank in the amount of $138,396.54 for purchasing card transactions made through billing cycle ending July 25th, 2018. Item 5 is a request for approval of minutes for the meeting held on July 17th, 2018. Item 6 is a request for the Weber County Planning Department for approval to surplus a Sharp AR-M350N copy machine. Item 7 is a request from the Weber County Assessor's Office for approval to surplus a desk, bookshelf, and a cabinet. Item 8 is a request for Weber County Attorney's Office for approval to surplus a bookshelf and a file cabinet. Item 9 is a request for approval of a retirement agreement by and between Weber County and Lisa Panter. Item 10 is a request for approval of a change of scope in contract C like Charlie 2013-211 to include addition of lighting protection system for the southwest branch of the headquarters library. Item 11 is a request for approval of a change of scope in contract C2013-22-220 to include a new septic tank and drain field at the Ogden Valley Branch Library. That's up in Huntsville area. And then item 13, again 12 being moved to an action item. Item 13 is a request for consideration and or action for a conditional use amendment for the bridges at Wolf Creek Resort PRUD located within the approved Wolf Creek Resort Master Development. Commissioner, are there any questions?
None.
None being heard. Mr. Lynn Taylor, thank you for representing Ricky Hatch today from our Clerk Auditor's Office. Do you have some comments for us, please?
I do, Commissioner. Just a summary of the largest items for those warrants and purchase orders. Warrants for the week of 24th July, there were 195, totaling $2.5 million. 27% or $672,000 of that went to medical insurance payments. 19% or $485,000 went to disposal at the transfer station. The warrants for the week of 31 July, there were 319, totaling $3 million. The overwhelming majority of that was 76% or $2.29 million to Ogden City for road construction. Purchase orders, there were 22, totaling $166,000. The largest among those, 36% or $60,000, went to pavement preservation treatments, 14% or $22.7 to the library for Microsoft Office software renewal, and 9% or $14.5 went to the sheriff's office for tasers.
Perfect. Thank you. Commissioner, any other discussion?
Nope.
Then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent items as read.
Thank you. And I'll second that motion. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those consent items pass. Thank you. We're moving on to our action items in sequence. Our first one is a request for approval of a resolution of the County Commissioners of Weber County making appointments to the Weber Area Dispatch 911 and Emergency Services District Administrative Control Board. Our presenter today will be Commissioner Ebert.
This will be fairly quick. We have an opening on our board with the 911. I think at this time probably the best commissioner to put on that board would be Commissioner Scott Jenkins. I think it's an opportunity for Commissioner Jenkins, to learn a lot about dispatch. He also has, again, some institutional knowledge from the state. And so I would make a motion that by resolution 33, we appoint Commissioner Scott Jenkins to serve as a board member to the Weber Area Dispatch 911.
I recognize that motion and second that motion. It's a roll call vote. Fatima?
Commissioner Ebert?
Aye.
Chair Harvey?
Aye. That motion or resolution number 33 carries. Number 2 on our action item is a request for approval of a resolution of the County Commissioners of Weber County appointing a member to the Ben Lomond Cemetery Sewer District. Our presenter today is Miss Stacy Skeen. Miss Skeen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's the Ben Lomond Cemetery District, and recently there was a member who resigned, causing a midterm vacancy, so that vacancy was posted in accordance with state statute, and we received 2 applications that you have before you. The term would end at the end of this year to fill the remainder of the resigning member.
Very good. Commissioners, any questions? I've reviewed both of the applicants and the applications and their credentials. And so do you have any questions?
No questions.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we appoint David L. Gordon to serve on the Ben Lomond Cemetery District Board.
I'll second that motion. I appreciate very much that both applicants are willing to serve in that capacity, but I know Mr. Gordon is one who's provided a lot of service for Weber County and will be a great choice, and so I can second that motion. We have a motion and a second on that. It's a roll call vote. Fatima, if you'll call for that, please.
Commissioner Ebert?
Aye.
And Chair Harvey?
Aye, thank you. That resolution 34 then carries. Item number 3 is a request for approval of a resolution. Thank you, Ms. Skeen. Item 3 is a request for approval of a resolution of the County Commissioners of Weber County appointing members to the Northern Utah Environmental Resource Agency, or New ERA Board. And on number 3, in as much as we've had a resignation there, on that board, the New ERA, to serve on there is the recommendation, because it's a commissioner, would be myself and Commissioner Jenkins. The term would begin August 1st, and it would end until we're replaced. That's just by statute. So I'd entertain a motion on that.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Commissioner Jim Harvey and Commissioner Scott Jenkins to serve on the Northern Utah Environmental Resource Agency Board.
And I'll second that motion. Any other?
That would be resolution 34.
Resolution 35. 35.
My mistake.
No, it's you. Fatima?
Commissioner Ebert?
Aye.
And Chair Harvey?
Aye, that resolution carries. Thank you very much. Item number 4, Mr. Crockett, welcome. It's a request for approval of a resolution. The County Commissioners appointing a member to the Utah County Indemnity Pool.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioners. The interlocal agreement governing Utah County's indemnity pool sets up a board of directors consisting of several members, one of which is an appointment made by the governing body of Weber County. I was informed that the Commission would like to make a change to this, and so this was placed on as an action item.
Thank you very much. We have a request to change the USIP board on that to elect then Commissioner Jenkins. He's willing to serve on that board, and so I'll entertain a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 36, appointing Commissioner Scott Jenkins to the USIP Board.
I'll second that motion.
Commissioner,
Call for the vote.
Commissioner Ebert
Aye.
and Chair Harvey.
Aye. Resolution carries. Item number 5 is a request for approval of a local funding agreement by and between Weber County and Pleasant View City for the Skyline Drive or 4300 North project. Keep in mind, this is the one out north, the Skyline and North. Ms. Brooke Stewart,
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners.
good morning.
Before you today, we have this local transportation funding agreement with Pleasant View City for their portion of Skyline Drive, or otherwise known as 4300 North. To provide you with a little back history on this project, they received funding in 2015, some sales tax funds, a little over $228,000 for the first phase. That was to construct the road on 4300 North between 350 West and 500 West. And then in 2016, they came back and reapplied and were awarded funding for the second phase, about $182,000, a little over, in corridor preservation funds and $375,000 in sales tax funds. And they're in the final stages of wrapping up this project and have run into some unforeseen costs. They've had some storm drain modifications that they weren't aware of, some additional fill that was needed for the vertical alignment up to the new fire station that was built. They discovered a shallow water line that needed to be buried deeper, as well as some debris and other foreign objects that were dumped into a soft spot that they needed to bring in extra excavation and fill for. So with that, the city submitted an amendment request that was reviewed by the Transportation Subcommittee and then approved for recommendation by WACOG on May 7th to receive an additional $152,811 in sales tax funds to cover the unanticipated cost and finish up this project. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, so just again, it's the recommendation by the Weber Area Council of Governments to go ahead and move forward with this. Is that, do I understand that correctly?
Correct.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Ebert, any questions?
No questions. It seems like this project's they've been working on for a while, so it'll be nice to get it buttoned up finally
Yep.
for the residents. So.
Great. With that, do you have a recommendation or a call for a
I'll make
motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the local funding agreement by and between Weber County and Pleasant View City for the Skyline Drive or 4300 North project.
Very good. I've got a motion and I will second that. Thank you. Call
Thank
for
you.
the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Stewart. We're on to item number 6 on our agenda, Ms. Jennifer Graham, which is a request for approval of a resolution of the Board of County Commissioners of Weber County appointing a member to the Golden Spike Event Center Advisory Board. Ms. Graham.
Good morning.
Morning.
This is a vacancy on our Golden Spike Event Center Advisory Board. Mr. Brett Burt with Golden Beverage had to leave the board and recommended that we appoint one of his employees, Jeremy Dearden. And since that time, we have interviewed Jeremy Dearden and reviewed his application. We feel it's a good fit. This will just be, the term ends actually in December of this year. So at that time, if Jeremy is still interested, we may be looking for reappointment. But for right now, we're just looking to fill that vacancy until December of 2018.
Great. Commissioner, any questions about Mr. Dearden to fill that vacancy?
Comfortable.
And I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve Mr. Jeremy Dearden to fill in until the end of the term for Mr. Brett Burt on the Golden Spike Event Center Advisory Board under Resolution 37.
Great. I'll second that. Fatima, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Or
Commissioner-
Commissioner? Yeah, thank you.
Are you done?
Commissioner
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay. Aye.
Aye, thank you. That resolution 37
you.
carries. Thank you, Jennifer. Very good. Item number 7. Let's see, Jared it's not the opening prayer. Oh, you are here.
Hi. Good morning, Commissioners.
Could you talk to us just a moment about punctuality?
Yes, it's very important. You should be punctual to all your meetings. I was not aware or asked about an invocation. I had a 10 o'clock meeting, so I apologize. I didn't realize, and I would have loved to, so I apologize.
You'll need to stop by Duncan Olson's house tonight and say dinner prayer for them.
There we go.
Family prayer.
Item number 7 is a request for approval of an addendum to Horizon Neighborhood PRUD Improvement Agreement. Mr. Anderson.
Commissioners, good morning. This is a update to an existing agreement that we had to do, and I believe you've got all this information, but just a quick summary. The original agreement was August 15th, 2016, and that escrow agreement was for the design of that subdivision at that time. There was a lot of utilities, a lot of road work that needed to happen on that subdivision. In order to record the plat and sell those lots, they needed to come up with the escrow for that design. Since then, they have made a lot of major changes to that subdivision, which has actually eliminated quite a bit of utilities and roadway infrastructure. Upon seeing that, they asked if they could get the difference between the two back, and we said, yes, you can, but let's get it in an agreement and do it officially. The attached estimate actually comes from the engineering firm that did the design. So they've quantified all the utilities and the changes that have happened. And as you can see in that first amendment towards the bottom there, that tells you the difference between the original and then this existing. And with your approval, we'll release those funds for the difference between the two.
Very good. Commissioner, any questions?
No, it looks like everyone's signed off and due diligence has been done, so I'm comfortable.
Would you make a motion then, or I'll entertain a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion that we approve the addendum to the Horizon Neighborhood PRUD Improvement Agreement.
Got a motion, and I'll second that. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Thank you. We'll now hear on our action items. Thank you, Jared. We'll now hear what was item 12 in the consent items. Mr. Ross, it's a request for final approval of an ordinance amended related to the surplus property disposal and moving Title II, Chapter 9, Article 10 to the new chapter within Title II. Mr. Bill Ross from our Culture Parks, from our Community Development Department. Thank you.
So, well, this was the final reading. It was read in by Sean Wilkinson a few weeks ago. Request amendments to the title, basically some housekeeping on the Code of Ordinance on how we sell the properties in Weber County, specifically that we get the fair market value on exchange of a sale on real property, and also the methods by which, how, why, and whom the county sells those properties to. So pretty simple, just some housekeeping on the original ordinance on how we do that.
Very good. Commissioner.
Ordinance 9.
Ordinance number 9.
Final reading?
Yes.
So I'll make a motion under Ordinance 9 that we approve, hold on, I'm working my way down to 13, an amendment for the bridges at Wolf Creek Resort PRUD location within the approved Wolf Creek Resort Master Development.
Very good. I'll second that motion. If there's no other questions, Fatima?
Commissioner
Aye.
Chair Harvey.
Aye. That motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Ross. We have a motion now to go to public hearing, a motion for a request for a motion to adjourn the public meeting and convene a public hearing.
So moved.
Got a motion, and I'll second that motion. Fatima? Isn't it what we have to do a roll call vote when we do this?
Not for public hearing.
Just closed meeting. Okay, very good. Well, public hearing. Thank you very much. Okay, we're now in a public hearing. Vote aye. Aye, thank you. Item number 2 is a public hearing to consider and take action on a request to vacate a public utility easement located at the rear of the Lot 35 Country Meadows subdivision in Roy. The first one is public comments. Before we go, well, I'll take that back. Why don't you go ahead, Steve, and give us your presentation, and then we'll go to public comments after your presentation.
Sure. Hello, Commissioners. The Planning Office has received a request from the owner of Lot 35 of Country Meadows, Mr. Dallas Rowe, has requested to vacate a 7-foot public utility easement at the rear of his property so that he can build an accessory structure about 3 feet to the property line, which otherwise wouldn't, which we wouldn't allow because we can't allow structures to be built in easements. So he's proposing to vacate that easement. As part of his request, he's actually given us letters from a few of the utility companies, Questar, Rocky Mountain Power, consenting to the vacation of the easement, which to me would indicate that there would be no utilities back there. I don't think I actually gave the location of the property. 5131 South, 3550 West in Roy. We have sent out notice. We have prepared the ordinance to be approved and adopted. Regarding the vacation of utility easements, the state ordinances do state that the legislative body may adopt an ordinance granting a petition to vacate some or all of a public street, right-of-way, or easement if the legislative body finds that A, good cause exists for the vacation, or B, neither the public interest or any person will be materially injured by the vacation. In speaking to the concern that was brought up by Mr. Parkinson, I can definitely understand that. I guess the issue would be if we were to vacate the entire easement, we would need everybody's signature that has property along there. And you can see on the staff report, there's quite a few residences there. Mr. Rowe would need to go by each of their houses and get their signatures. So I'll just give you the planning recommendation, which is approval of the request to vacate the 7-foot easement along the west property line within Lot 1 of Country Meadows subdivision by ordinance. The recommendation is based on the findings in the staff report. I'll answer any questions if you have any.
So, again, will you be more pointed as to the recommendation from the planning department, what this would be on this particular item?
The recommendation is to approve the request to vacate the public utility easement, which is a 7-foot public utility and drainage easement along the west property line of Lot 35 of Country Meadows subdivision. That is the recommendation.
Very good. Commissioner, any questions?
So what was the purpose originally of placing that easement on the back of the property, and why has that changed?
So when the development occurs, when it's in the review process, our agencies like to see easements along property lines. With that, sometimes you get developers who just put them on all property lines, arbitrarily just put them on property lines because they know that's what the county wants to see. But usually what we see is those utilities are mostly in the front property line. So today, if a development were to come in, unless there were some drainage or some requirement to have it along a different property line, we usually would just want to see it on the front property line.
What effect will it have? I noticed that the backside of the property is undeveloped. Is that future developable property? And what effect will reducing or eliminating that easement have on that property?
I don't believe it would have any effect on that property. Currently, it's owned by Weber Basin Water Conservancy District. They use it. If you can, I guess if you were to zoom out, you would see it looks like some kind of pond for them. Mm-hmm. But you can also see there's a road stubbed there. So if it were to be developed in the future, utilities would likely follow that route of where the road is stubbed.
Okay. And you said some of the utilities. Have all the utilities signed off on this?
That is an interesting question, because to say all of the utilities, I mean, we could go to utilities that aren't even in the area and they could sign off on it. What we do and what state code requires is that we find all the affected entities and send them notice. So we've sent notice to the entities that we feel are affected entities. Okay. But it would be hard to say that every single utility company has signed off on it.
Drainage, which is always an issue. Seemingly we feel like we have a hand on it, but usually those who've lived there 100 years have a better understanding of drainage issues. Have we contacted farmers or others in that area to make sure that there isn't an issue with drainage, that one day that easement will be needed for drainage?
We have not. We've used our own resources, which in this case would be the engineering division, to go out and do site inspection to determine that there is no need for any kind of drainage easement there, and they have confirmed that there is no need for that easement.
And my last question, if for some reason in 10 or 15 years there is a concern with an easement, do we have the ability then to place an easement on future developable property along this line as part of the development agreement to develop that property?
So are you referring to the property that's not currently developed? Correct. Yeah, we would be able to, if we needed an easement to be there as part of the development process, we would request that.
I just don't want somebody cussing us in 15 years. What a bunch of idiot commissioners for taking this easement off, and now we have drainage issues and we have utility issues and we can't develop our piece of property. Why did they do that? So I'm just wondering if we have capability to create other easements if we need to.
We do.
Okay. Okay. That's all I have, Chair.
Good.
And the applicant is here if you have questions for him.
Very good. If the applicant would like to come forward, are you the applicant?
I am.
If you'd state your name for the...
My name is Dallas Rowe. I'm the homeowner.
Thank you. Do you have any statements to make?
I've done my due diligence. I've contacted 7 utilities. We've got letters of permission to vacate the property. There are already structures closer than 3 feet to that property line on the same street, same side of the street. So I'd just like to be able to build the structure.
Very good. Anything else?
Nope.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now's the time on our public hearing for public comments. If you'll please, if you have any public comments, to state your name, your address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Steve Parkinson again from Roy City. Roy has an option, and I've proposed this to Mr. Burton. We have a letter that you can go get out all the utility companies to sign off on, then you can encroach in the easement, but the easement still stays. That acknowledges all the utilities that are in the area that something's going to be constructed in there, and if you ever need to, you've got to kind of work around that building. Especially if it's something that's going to be with footing foundation, they've got to really sign off. But you know, if you don't have all the letters from sewer, water, and stuff, you really haven't contacted all the utilities within the area. Just power and phone is not really everything. So again, the Roy City would like it either vacate the entire thing or just not.
Variance. Basically is what
Correct.
You're saying. How do you see this impacting if we were to grant this easement? What is the negative impact to Roy per se? What is?
Well, if a utility company does need to go back there for some reason, whether it be drainage or especially when you develop to the west of that, it's hard to bring back an easement onto a property that's already been vacated. It's much easier to give a variance or have that letter that says you can encroach it within that easement than it is to go back and create it. To create one, we just have to put it all onto the new properties to the west. Right now, if it's a 7-foot easement, you would assume the utility companies wanted a 14-foot easement, 7 on both sides, in order to put something down the middle. If you vacate this one, then 14 feet's got to go on the property right behind it.
Mr. Burton, would you come back up for some additional questions, please? Commissioner, you have questions for Mr. Burton?
So did we offer the option of some type of variance of easement rather than getting rid of the easement?
That is an option that he could pursue, would be to apply for a variance. Usually for a variance, you have to show that there is some specific, site-specific hardship, like a ditch or like a slope, that warrants a variance to that, to allow him to build within that easement. That might be kind of hard to demonstrate because I don't feel that there is a site-specific hardship other than there's just this arbitrary easement on the back of this property. That would be an option.
That's, thank you, Mr. Burton, appreciate that. Now we, looking for a request or for a motion to adjourn the public hearing and convene a public meeting.
So moved.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're now back into our public meeting for action items to be considered. Commissioner, questions or concerns or?
At this point, Commissioner, I think my preference would be to reach out to Roy City, see if we can come up with some type of resolution to meet what their concerns are. Maybe have our staff work with their staff to see if there's a real issue with eliminating this easement when it runs into Roy and what type of impact it would have, positive and or negative. And if we can't come to a resolution, then offer the opportunity to have staff work with the individual who asking for the easement to maybe get
Mr. Rowe,
to get the variance, rather than eliminating the easement for one property, which would have impact on another city and probably another 15 residents or more. I'd like to maybe study out the issues with Roy, and if we can't come to some kind of resolution with Roy, then have staff work to get a variance.
I would support that. So though, if I were to call for an action on this, you would say to hold or staff to?
I would ask to table it until staff can work with Roy.
So inasmuch as there are two of us here today and not three, that means that the item will be tabled until future notice, so that there will be no action taken on this today. That's it. Item number I is commissioner comments. Do you have any commissioner comments for us today? I do a little bit. First coming here, commissioners receive parking stalls that are right up close to the building. In an effort to make sure that everybody, not just the commissioner, get an opportunity to park up close, we started what was called a Stall of Fame. And so after talking to management, some of our department head and directors, we have a person in our planning who has exemplified some great service lately to Weber County and people in the building industry, and that's Stan Bernish. Is Stan here? I don't see Stan. Mr. Bernish has been awarded the Stall of Fame beginning tomorrow and through the next month, and so Mr. Ross, would you let Stan know that he's the recipient of the Stall of Fame, and he's kind, helpful, and goes the extra mile, and we appreciate that very much. So he's always working, because our growth is more than double what we anticipated here in Weber County, which is a great thing. Stan's working some extra hours, and that'll help him to get in and out of the building a little quicker. So if you'll let him know that, I'd appreciate it. Seeing no other commissioner comments, then I'll entertain a motion for item number J.
So moved.
And seconded. We stand adjourned. Thank you.